Welcome to the Pool Nation podcast, where it's all pool talk. And we ain't talking about netting and jetting or splashing and dashing. We're talking about becoming a nation of pool pros. We talk about the latest products, trends, and training in the pool industry. Now let's welcome your host, with over a decade of industry insider experience and still the reigning champion of Marco Polo, Edgar De Jesus, and his co-host, John JJ Flawless, the fastest netter in the West, and Zach the Pool Boy Nicholas.
Welcome, everyone, to the Pool Nation Live podcast with myself, your host, Edgar De Jesus. And yes, I am the reigning champion of Marco Polo, along with John JJ Flawless, the fastest netter in the West, and the famous Zach, the Pool Boy Nicholas. Today, we're going to do a little more business talk and diving into making more money because, guys, girls, who doesn't want to make more money? We're going to do a deep dive into John and Zach businesses so we can see their progression and at what point they started focusing on increasing revenues. So we will talk about their experiences and talk about increasing revenues by adding services and fees. I want to welcome everyone to our live podcast, the podcast where it's all pool talk. And we ain't talking about netting and jetting or splashing and dashing. We're talking about becoming a nation of pool pros. And yes, we will talk about the latest products, trends, and training in the pool industry. Before we get started today, I want to thank our sponsors for this podcast. HASA, welcome to the Pool Nation family. Ultimate Pool Tools, Pool Invoice, and the PoolmanUniversity.com. We want to thank you for your continued support. Zach, good morning.
Good morning, everybody. I got to give a shout out to my team out in the field today because it is really cold down here. So I want to thank the guys for getting out there and getting it done. I also want to say thank you to HASA, our newest sponsor. They're sponsoring 6 episodes, and it's just so cool to have the support from our sponsors. And I want you all to know that we're super thankful and super excited to have you all as a part of this.
Absolutely. HASA, welcome aboard. We love having you. John, good morning.
Good morning, everybody. I wish it was cold where I'm at. We're going to be up in the 80s today. But what is it, like 12 degrees you guys said it's over in Texas right now or something like that?
You know what, John? Zach, did you just slap us in the face real quick with the 80-degree weather? Did I take that wrong?
I might move to John.
You guys are talking about me going over to Texas. You guys need to come over here, right? Well, it's bizarre. It's cold in the morning. You know, it's like 50 some degrees in the morning and we're like freezing our butts off. And then 2-3 hours into it, we're like hot as hell. You know, you can't wear your jacket off, jacket on, and then you're like literally sweating midday. So it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, we do have some cold days out there. And Jeanette, good morning. I know that you're listening to the live podcast, and I saw your post that you guys are closing on Monday. And I was talking to Justin yesterday, a buddy of mine, and he called me up and he's like, "Oh my God, Edgar, my pole, it was frozen. I couldn't extend it out because the cam got locked up." And he's like, "I put my hammerhead in the pool. I take it out, I pull it in the truck. And by the time I drove to the next pool, the bag was actually frozen."
Wow.
And I'm like, "No, thank you." So anyways, Jeanette, I know that you're taking Monday off too, because you're closing because of the cold weather, but this is crazy. This is absolutely crazy.
So, hey, before we get started too, I want to jump on that and say, I want to thank HASA also, especially Terry. He's been with us since the start, of the podcast. He's been one of our first guests, and he's been on our lives. He's done a lot of work with us. So thank you, Terry. Thank you, HASA, for your support. Much, much appreciated.
Hey, John, he was your first, right?
He was.
On the Instagram Live?
That sounds kind of weird, bro.
Did it? Did that come out wrong?
Bro,
that came out wrong?
That came out really wrong.
Damn, I'll have to edit that out over there. All right, let me rephrase that. John, wasn't he your first guest on the Instagram Live?
Yes, I believe so.
Sorry about that, John. Oh, Zach's just biting his tongue over there.
Yeah, he was on mute for a second, spitting out his bang.
Hey, John, did you watch that Super Bowl?
What Super Bowl? Was that even a Super Bowl? Really?
Did you watch it though?
Oh yeah, we watched it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got home like around, I don't know, we halfway into the first quarter. We were out doing golf lessons, I think is what we were doing, or we were golfing, something like that we were doing. And we started watching it, and oh my God, what a train wreck from the beginning. So, yeah.
Yeah, it was absolutely crazy. Zach, I'm sure you're going to tell me no on the Super Bowl, am I right?
Yeah, no, heck no. I don't have time for all of that. And I was too busy because I was doing my aquascaping because, as you know, I've officially become a full-blown tank nerd now. So
yes.
I was too busy for that.
Yes.
He's going all in, John. Have you noticed that? He's like hardcore, like the
caught the bug.
You know, but it's like he said, the aquascape. Like I saw the pictures that he sent, and it's like, you know, he's doing all this underwater landscaping kind of thing for the fish and all that. It's like really kind of to the next level.
Well, he was sending me pictures where he was sitting there with like a little microscopes, and he was like building little corals and stuff like that. I was like, what the hell are you doing, Zach? Oh, I've sent it to the wrong person.
I'm an aquatics pro, so
he said something like
he's
traveling out to Fuji so that he can get the fresh sand from the Fuji water or something like that because it has the best bacteria for the fish.
You could buy that at Petco now.
Yeah.
Hey, Zach, let's start a second podcast after this one, and we'll kind of do aquascapes for you.
Perfect.
Maybe you can head that one on and have me and John on as guests.
I'm down.
Hey, John, I want to thank you for the Instagram Live on Wednesday. I think it was a great Instagram Live, and it was fun for me because I got to sit back and watch this time and just kind of sit there and type all the messages and all that kind of stuff. But it's really good to put faces and voices to the Instagram followers. But I'm going to have to tell you, I think one of the highlights was when Mama jumped on. I thought that was freaking cool. So, Mama, you're probably listening, so we might need to have you do one of the pool girls.
Wow. So, Edgar, putting Janie on the spot like that, you better be careful.
Oh, come on. I bet you anything that you want that Mama will do one before Zach does.
Yeah, I mean, you guys definitely do an amazing job. And I don't know if I can hang, because as you both know, and I don't know that any of our listeners know, but I definitely get super intense stage fright. So I would probably just sit there and stare at the camera blankly for an hour. And I think that'd let everyone down. But John, I do have to say that I got caught up on the live today, and I was busting up laughing about your comment about my glorious beard. So
God, I didn't think
Guys, if you haven't watched the Instagram Live, John was completely bashing Zach on his beard.
Oh, was I bashing him? Oh, God. I was.
And I have to admit, it is absolutely insane, and it scares the shit out of me too. And I don't know what to do with it, so I just kind of let it do its own thing. And but at the end of the day, I do have to say, Justin with RR Pools, I mean, he definitely took the win on the whole beard topic there.
Right?
So.
As soon as he popped on, I'm like, oh, like getting put in your place. Oh,
yeah.
ZZ Top status, you know what I mean? When he came on, that was interesting. But as far as Janie, Edgar, I think you might be right. If you would have asked me like the day before the live or even on the live, I would have said, hell no. But boy, did she surprise me. I mean, normally she's very reserved and shy. She's really such a sweet person. It's quite a beautiful thing to watch her come out of her shell and be a little more assertive and confident. She's very smart and determined to be great at everything she does. She makes me so proud. And God, I love her. So again, love you, Mama. You did amazing. You definitely impressed me on that live because, like I said, if you would have known her 20 years ago, she would probably ran, dropped everything and just like ran for like a mile just to kind of get out of sight. But now she's kind of just really come out of her shell, and it's just beautiful to watch it happen. It's like watching a flower bloom. You know?
And Mama, I'm completely serious. Excuse me. I know that you can take John's phone, so you just have it, and hopefully he's got my number in there. Hopefully I'm on kind of speed dial, but if not, just kind of look through his contacts and call me, because I think it would be an awesome one to have you on there and have you hit up all the pool girls out there.
Are you starting? Hold on, I'm gonna interject real quick. Are you starting to get the trend of what's happening here? You know, seems like every podcast now, right? I'm always throwing like a little I love yous to Mama and saying these wonderful things. It's because I'm getting my ass kicked all week, or I'm doing bad things and I'm getting in trouble. So on Friday mornings, when we do these podcasts, I'm trying to get back into good graces with Mama.
I was gonna say, I noticed an excessive level of cut taking going on.
Exactly right. So there it is. I'm just letting the cat out of the bag right there. Cue Edgar.
Oh man. Hey, John, Zach, have you guys heard of that new 2-blade propeller? I kept calling it impeller yesterday, the propeller from the Hammerhead.
I haven't heard anything about it.
One of the guys that I was talking to, they put out this new propeller that's a 2-blade instead of a 3-blade. And, he was messaging me on it. And I told him, I said, hey, you just give me a heads up once you try it and see how it is. And he called me yesterday and he was just raving about it. He said, when I put it in the pool, I feel the pool. You turn on the Hammerhead or the Riptide and you put it into that pool and you feel that pool. He felt that it moved more water. But where I know that he was onto something is he said, when you put it close to the leaves, how they all get sucked in. He's like, Edgar, I just put that thing in there and all of a sudden those leaves are coming even from further away. He was super excited about it. So guys, any of you out there that are getting it or have gotten it, I want to get some feedback on that 2-blade propeller. I used to have all the Hammerheads and they had the 3-blade. And the biggest problem was, obviously, you get some of the things that get caught up as they're being sucked in through there. So he invited me to go out and do some tests on it so we could shoot some videos. So I think I'm going to go as soon as it gets into warm temperature. I'll go out with him and take a look at it and post some of those videos on the Poolman University.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And we're definitely going to have to check into that because anything like any little modification we could make just to increase efficiency with the guys, I mean, they would love it. You just set your Hammerhead in the middle of the pool now and just let it all pull in, or how does that work? So we'll definitely have to check that out.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, Edgar, you should call them and get all the details. We should talk about it, all the technical aspects of it and what the difference is between the old one and the new one and real life scenarios.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Hammerhead, if you're listening, I'm going to call you this week. So not sure if they're listening or not, but we'll throw that out there. All right, guys, before we get started, as we always do, let's mention the trainings that are coming up soon because that's our focus, folks, training and education. So Bob's next water chemistry training class is going to be held on the 27th of February. Bob is going to be teaching the class, and he is personally not going to be doing one for a while. So if you want to learn and take the class directly with Bob, that's the one that I recommend that you take. And then Hasa Dave is going to do one on the 20th, and that one is in person and virtual. So that one's going to be in Flower Mound, Texas. That's close to Dallas. They're going to take 30 people live and anyone else via Zoom. So if you're interested in any of those classes, go to pcti.online, or you could go to the Poolman University on the right-hand side, click on that banner, and it's going to take you directly over to their registration page. And the last one is a Pool Nation business training, and this one is going to be on March 6th, and we're only taking 12 people, and eight spots have been taken up already. So those remaining spots are limited. This training is going to focus on the financial side of your business, guys and girls, and it'll cover the business types, billing, and how to make it work for you. Then we'll do a deep dive into the metrics that we've created, and that's going to be your COC, your cost of cleaning, and your ACS, which is the average cost of service. We're going to do then a full P&L statement and learn the fundamentals of the P&L. And guys, by the time that you're done with that class, you're going to have a great foundation into your financials. If you want to take that class, and it is a paid class, go to poolnationpodcast.com. On the top, it says Pool Nation Business Training. Click there and it'll take you to the registration. You can also find a link over on the right-hand side. So Zach, John, I've already talked to 7 of 8 of the people that are taking the class, and I'm super pumped because it's a diverse group. So we have people that actually have employees and companies. It's husband and wife that run it. We have individual pool guys, and then we even have people that are working for other pool companies, and they're just, all they do is the service side, and they get paid to service their pools, but they have obviously their expenses for trucks and gas and all that. So they really kind of want to break it all down and be able to learn that aspect of it. So I think it's going to be really cool. And I did have a guy yesterday that called me, and we're kind of testing it and stuff like that. And so he was entering the numbers and stuff like that. And he came up with his cost, which was $44.95 was his average cost of cleaning. And it was really an eye opener for him with regards to rates. And it really had him digging down deep into what he wanted to do next. So really excited about that. So if you want to sign up, go ahead and sign up and take the class. All right, guys, let's get started with this podcast. And I think it's going to end up being a multi-series podcast. What I want to do first is get from each one of you and what you started with service-wise, guys, and what you do now, and how you've progressed to where you are now. I really want the guys to kind of take them through your journey, where you started, where you quoted your first rates, at what point really did you kind of click and start wanting to increase revenues or looked at fees and all that kind of stuff. So let's get started.
Yeah. And, the one thing that we want to talk about is how to increase revenue and how to make more money. And Edgar, like in this training that we're doing, we're going to talk about profit. And if guys or girls want to increase profit, it can only be done one of two ways. So you either make more money or you cut your costs. And when we first started looking at trying to become profitable, and I say become profitable because we were so far from profitable, the first thing we did was look at all of the stupid things we spent money on and started cutting costs. And that was the first step for us. And it was difficult because you always seem to be able to justify why you're spending money on something stupid. And I still catch myself today, trying to justify spending money on something stupid. And once you move from cutting costs and you're now running lean, which running lean means you're cut down to the necessities, now you have to look at your pricing. And pricing has so many things to take into consideration. Back in the day, as I was kind of growing the business, I would talk to people that had businesses for a long time. And it was like, just throw 50% markup on it. And that's not the case anymore. There's so much more to consider when you're pricing. And another thing that I want to recommend to everyone is try to understand margin versus markup. And there's a great video that I posted on Pullman University that really explains it much better than I can do. So I encourage everyone to check that video out. And then, moving on, once you've mastered your current service offering, you've cut your costs, you have your pricing where it needs to be. Now you can start investigating offering additional services to try to generate more revenue. But it's important that you don't just offer all kinds of services and have it affect the quality of your service. You really need to make sure that it is going to make sense. Otherwise, you'll end up doing a subpar job because you'll be trying to take on too much. And to give you an example of that, because we went through that, we did small scale remodeling for about 2 years. And it was super tough because we weren't able to focus on these jobs all day. And I ended up going and taking the major renovations class from Genesis. And I spent about $4,000 flying to California, getting a hotel, and taking the course. And when I completed that course and I was headed back to the hotel after it was all said and done, during that drive, I literally came to the conclusion that this doesn't fit our model and our goals. And we are no longer going to offer remodeling. And at the end of the day, I was pretty sad because I'd spent so much money to come to that conclusion. But in all honesty, it was probably the best money ever spent because it put me back on track with the plan.
Those are huge points, Zach, huge points. And I think, for all of you that are listening, we're always wanting to add those extra services and obviously bring on the extra revenue. But I think you hit it right on, Zach, and that is that you have to really kind of have your service part of it down and really be an expert and have a great service at that and do that before you go try to do everything. And I think a lot of times, and from what I see, especially through social media, is people tend to see something a lot and then they want to go out there and they want to do the same thing. And sometimes it just doesn't fit their business model. And you and I have talked about it, Zach, with an example, DecoSeal. You kind of see a whole bunch of people doing DecoSeal jobs and then everybody wants to do DecoSeal jobs, but they don't look at the bigger picture. And that is that, if you're a one puller, if you're an individual guy and you're doing pulls 5 days a week and you're going to go do a DecoSeal job, you really have to figure out how much time and effort that's going to take for you to be able to do that and be able to figure out if you're really going to make money off of it and be really profitable, where maybe you can go out and do, 4 filters in that time and that profit actually becomes more than the DecoSeal. So I think that was a huge point that you hit on, that you really, before you go into any of this, guys, it's not just throw everything to wait to see if it sticks on the wall, but actually, think through the process and, figure out the profit of it and the time and see if it fits into your core business. John, let me get started with you. When you started doing pools, what did your service include when you first started in the pool industry?
Oh, wow. Everything and anything. I was just a boy with a dream. I won't say that I didn't know how to service a pool or what to do. I just didn't have the experience doing it. So we've talked about this before. I spent over a year studying, learning, watching videos, reading books, getting certified before even taking on my first account. But what I was lacking was the most valuable thing, which was hands-on experience. I did know that I wanted my business to be different, not average, right? Not your average pool service company. And I knew that in order to provide that, I had to be one of the best at what we do and provide top-notch quality customer service and customer relations. So to answer your question, when I first started, I was your full-time pool service guy. I would spend multiple days a week at a home, and I'd spend multiple hours at a time doing what we can do now in about 20 to 30 minutes. So looking back at it, I can't help but laugh. If I was a client, I'd trip out seeing the pool guy there, you know what I mean, as much as I was. So, when I had no idea, basically is what I'm trying to say when we first started. So it was like, I thought everything was included when it came down to servicing a pool. So as far as any kind of chemicals, the time we spent there, you know what I mean? At first I didn't even charge for filters. I didn't know I was supposed to charge for filters. So I was cleaning filters for free. It was all mayhem. But that changed really, really quickly. Then I'd say probably within the first 2 months, it's changed. I've kind of evolved.
I think we all have a stage or a process that we go through. And what I mean by that is that we all start at one point new in the industry and we get really busy, John, right? Zach, learning all the labor, the water chemistry, the repair side of our business. And, I call this the honeymoon or the getting your feet wet stage, where all of your time and focus goes into that part of the business. What you don't do is look at the other aspects of your business. You don't focus on all those other hats that you need to wear in all those other areas where you can either charge more or increase, revenue. And I totally get it. It's a natural part of anyone or anything that does anything in business, right? When you first start, you're learning so much about the business that you kind of become that tunnel vision into what it is that you're doing.
I mean, it kind of goes back in the heart. It goes back to the heart of kind of like the whole purpose of what we're trying to do here at the podcast, Pool Nation with Poolman University. It's getting this knowledge out because this wasn't available to anybody back when we started. You just couldn't find this information. So it was learn how to service a pool and what's involved in servicing a pool and what needs to be done. So naturally, as a new business owner or starting off, I thought that those things were already included or should be included with the monthly rate. Doing what we do now and kind of having, especially like with the business class and doing that and having like a roadmap for people so they can see and understand. So when they start or venture off into this wonderful industry that we're in, they can hit the ground running and in the right direction. So they don't have to take those hits and those lumps that all of us did when we first started.
And guys, it happens to everybody. When I started in the industry, I come from a very strong numbers background in hotels and all that kind of stuff. But because I knew that and I was kind of comfortable with that, my focus was, John, completely what you're saying, right? You're so focused on learning. And I remember doing a filter and having it take, 45 minutes. And I'm more panicked and worried about that than any other part of my business at that point.
45 minutes to close the lid.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was 45 minutes. It was those old Purex with the lid on the top. The guy kept coming out and he's like, "Are you okay? You got that? Are you okay?" And it literally took me 45 minutes to put the lid on. But I was so stressed about that aspect of the business, about learning everything, the water chemistry, the dealing with the customers, the repairs, as customer comes out and he asks a question and it's like, oh man, do I know the answer to that? And I know Mama's talked about it before, right? It's like you're kind of nervous to make sure that you have the right answer. You don't want to say the wrong thing. That even I didn't focus so much on my billing and my profit and all that because I'm like, oh, I'm kind of comfortable. I got that. And it wasn't till a couple months in that I kind of went, wait a second. I got to take a step back and think bigger picture here. It's not just all, one-sided. So guys, it's going to happen. If you're new into the industry, it's okay. That's going to happen. And exactly like John said, that's why we want to do the podcast and we want to do all those things so you can start hearing those things. And we've learned through making the mistakes. That's how we've kind of gotten to where we are. John, let me ask you this. What was the very first rate that you quoted to your very first customer?
It might sound like a lot when I say it, but let me kind of give a little backstory to it. So the first rate that we quoted and we landed the account was $200 a month. But out here in the valley, in the Coachella Valley where we're at, service is 95% of the rest of the country is one time a week. And I've talked about this like 50,000 times, and I'll say it again. Out here, everybody does twice a week service, right? So 2 stops a week, average 9 stops a month when you take into consideration 5-week months. Right? So 2 visits per week, and it was at $200 per month. The going rate out here was at about $100 to about $130 for twice a week service. So I knew when I first started that I wanted to be better, and I knew that I was going to give my all, and I knew that I was going to excel, that I wanted to charge a premium because I was going to be able to offer not only just as far as like pool service, but be able to bring a different portion of it, which is like customer relationship and service and stuff that I feel that is one of my strengths, especially when it comes down to like talking to people or talking to my customers. So we started off at $200. I got to tell you, it's way too cheap. You know, if you break it down, it was at $25 a visit, but when you're there twice a week. So, yep, it was $200 a month.
So you can think about it. It's $200 a month. So it's 2 days. So it'd basically be like $100 for a single.
Yep. $100 for a single account. Yep.
For a single visit. And what was everybody charging? You said 100 to 130 for 2 stops?
Oh yeah. And there's some people out here that do $80 for 2 stops. I shit you not.
$80 for 2 stops?
Maddening out here. It is maddening that people do that. And I just don't understand it. I don't know how they do it.
That's $40 for 1 stop per month. So if you were to divide it, right, because you're going twice a week.
No. Yeah, if they're going $80, right? Yeah, so that's $20 a week, right? So that's $10. Yeah. That's $10 a visit.
$10 a visit, including everything.
Yeah, including everything. I mean, you know, a lot of, believe it or not, a lot do filters for free too, and it's just bonkers. It's just weird. I don't know how. It is insane. It's garbage. It really is, and I'm sorry to say it, but you can't take care of a pool. You just can't properly. Or if you do, then you can't be in business for a long time, for much long, because what it takes the manpower it takes, the training, the knowledge, the equipment you need to use, the chemicals you need to use, you just can't. If you got, so think about it again. So that's at $10 a visit, and then you consider 9 weeks. I say it's 9 visits a month because of the 5-week month. So, I mean, you're literally looking at like $9, $8 a visit. And that's before any kind of overhead, before any kind of chemicals, before anything. I mean, how do you even make that work? I don't know. I have no idea.
I'm in complete shock over here for $80 for Zach, because financially, can they even survive?
I don't know how they do it.
I don't see how. I don't even understand. Like, I've tried to pencil it out how some of these other markets survive off $100 a month with 1 stop a week. Yeah. Like I literally can't figure it out. And the only thing I can kind of attribute it to is just having like that proximity. Because I do see some guys that are like taking a video over the fence. They're like, there's the next 5 stops, you know, and that's the only thing I can come up with. But even at that, it's almost impossible to survive.
Because you think $100. So let's say you do have a guy charging $100. He's all by himself. So he's got no employees. He's got no nothing. He doesn't have a truck payment. He probably can survive. You know, he's not making the most money, but he probably can survive. But somebody making $9 or $10 a stop, how do you survive? Your expenses are just going to be way much more than what you make. You're going to be in the negative.
I mean, the only way you can do it, and this is what it is, and this is what I come across all the time, it's just they're there and they just fill a floater with tabs. And even tabs are expensive too. I don't even know how they do it. Or you'll throw a gallon of chlorine in the pool and call it a day. Give it a little quick net and move. They're the epitome of splash and dash, I would imagine. That's the only way you can survive. And, you know, they'll do 50 pulls a day. And that's crazy. 50 pulls a day. I guess you can make it work, but
that's crazy.
But you have the unforeseen cost. You have one thing happen and you're toasted.
You are toasted. Well,
you got one pull that flips green and you lost the whole day.
Well, the biggest complaint we get is I don't ever see my pool guy. He doesn't show up, of course. So, when they get behind, they just don't show and they skip because they're going to be there again in a few days. I'm not trying to knock it. Trust me, that's not what I'm getting at here. I'm just saying I'd like them to charge more and do better. It's crazy. I just don't know how they can make it work. And if that's how the industry was for me, I'd be out of this a long time ago. I wouldn't be.
Agreed. I'm in complete shock. I knew that they would do, but I didn't know that at $80, I thought they were doing like, at the 120, 130. And even that's tight, right? My brain is going 120, 130. That's tight for twice a week, but $80.
Let me say this too. Okay. In our area, we have more pools per capita than anywhere else in the country, but we do have small pools too, right? So a lot of our pools are between like 6,000 and 12,000 gallons. They're not very big pools. In theory, if you look at it that way, we're like Texas. I know Zach's looking at it going, how on earth would that even be possible, I guess, when you're dealing with 20, 30, 40,000 gallon, 50,000 gallon pools. But, it's real small here and you can have a really tight route. Literally every pool, we have a bunch of country clubs. So every pool in the backyard has a pool. So I guess in theory, if they have 15 pools down the road, they can make it happen and it makes it work for them. And they live a simple lifestyle and that's what they're happy with, I guess. But, I still think that it's ridiculous and absurd.
You know what? If there's anybody out there that's doing $80 for 2 weeks of service, send me a message because I'm going to have you plug in some numbers and kind of show you the breakdown. That's just shocking to me. So, John, so what do you quote now for service?
So our minimum funding gate, doesn't matter what size the pool is, doesn't matter anything, is $175 a month for once a week. So I don't care if you have a spool for 5,000 gallons, and I don't care if the pool's like 18,000, 20,000 gallons. Even if it's 20,000 gallons, if I can check off the other boxes like landscaping, it's a vacation home. There's not going to be there's no dog swimming, stuff like that. Then even the bigger pool, sometimes I can do it 175. But that's the funding gate right there, and I won't go any lower. Doesn't matter.
We don't go any lower. Sorry.
Yeah, it just doesn't make any sense. And I have customers that go, what do you mean minimum? I go, minimum. I go, look, I'm running a business here. And in order for me to provide the service that I need to provide for any body of water, for it to make sense to me and to make sense so that I can provide that service, I have to be at this dollar amount. And when they try to negotiate it, it's just not, I can't negotiate with this. I will lose money and I'm not in this, to lose money. So this is where it needs to be. And then we go up from there. And then we'll look at, when we go to the backyard, if there's a bunch of dogs and labs and they swim in the pool all the time, then of course you're going to add to it. If the whole pool's lined with bougainvilleas or they got trees hanging over it, we probably won't even take the pool. It'd probably not be right for us because we only do once a week service. But, if it's a vacation rental, then it goes up. Like our vacation rentals, our Airbnbs, because we do a lot of those. They start off at like $225. If it's a really small pool, it's just like not too heavily rented. And we go all the way up to like $300 a month for Airbnbs.
Well, and the thing is that, at least from my perspective, maybe I'm completely wrong, but when I look at it, the least amount of cost is when you're in the backyard with your pole in your hand, standing there at the pool for 20 minutes or 25 minutes, whatever that visit takes. It's everything else and getting there and facilitating that and having the inventory and having the vehicle and having the insurance. That's where your cost is. So to me, it doesn't matter to me whether it's an 8,000 gallon pool or a 12,000 gallon pool. And that's why we don't negotiate. I have a couple long time from the beginning that we negotiated a little bit, but we no longer do that.
That's the way you got to do it.
You definitely have to do that. And guys, we're not saying go out tomorrow and if you're charging $100, go to the next customer and say, I charge 225, take it or leave it. There's a thought process to get to your number and a service quality. And John, this is what I love about you is you always talk about that premier pool service, but you embody everything and you offer everything about that premier service. And so whoever signs up is going to get that quality of service. They're not going to get the guy that just jumps in and dumps 2 tabs and out the door. John, at what point, so you start in the industry, you kind of do what we all do, focusing and thinking everything's included and stuff like that. You kind of figure out your rate. You quoted your first low rates. Now you're getting, into the game. You're like, wait, I need to make changes. Now your rate is at 175. At what point did you stop and look at your business and say, okay, I got my service. I got the rates that I want to do. Now I need to increase revenue by providing either other services or other fees.
Real quick, I want to jump in because I think it's important that we talk about fees versus services real quick and explain those so that the listeners know the difference between both. So fees are going to be things that you do that don't require the labor. So for example, like an algicide fee, a conditioner fee, a call out fee, and so on. And then you have an extra services that you can do to increase your revenue. For example, DecoSeal or the bead blasting and so on. And I want everyone to be able to look at all areas where they can increase their revenue. So I apologize. I just wanted to clarify that.
I think that's another great point, Zach, in that when we look at it, you have to do exactly that. You have to look at the different opportunities, and some of them are fees and some of them are services. And for me, Zach, I did have the algicide fee from when I bought my company. And then I just it was easy for me to then at that point tell basically everybody that I was signing up, hey, I have this fee. And I would say 99% of the time, people were like, okay. And so I would have that yearly algicide and I would have that conditioner fee. And those were fees that I had in there. But an example, you look at, when I had 250 pools for the algicide fee, that was more than like $18,000 a year that I would make from that algicide fee. And my conditioner fee was like $40. So you're looking at about 10 grand. But those are fees and they're not added services, guys. So as we continue, we definitely want to separate those two for you to know the different areas of being able to grow that revenue. So John, at what point or how long into your business do you stop and look at your business and say, okay, I see the opportunity here to increase my revenue by either one, service or fees?
Pretty much immediately. When I added up all the time, effort, chems I used at each account every month, I knew I had to adapt or else this would have been a very, very short ride. Now to be clear in the beginning, 75% of the time you spent at a pool is either second guessing yourself, being paranoid, or being way too anal. And your customer shouldn't have to pay for that. And I knew that, right? It was my price for admission. I considered it as like my training or my Genesis class, like that Zach took. You have to pay, you got to pay the piper, pay your dues. So I learned quick that a lot of those things I included should be separate from the monthly service fee. For example, like scale, metal treatments, enzymes, phosphate removers, additional service calls, trips, etc.
So do you charge any fees, John?
When we first meet up with the customer and the client, I run through a laundry list of charges. So we have our monthly service fee that we charge, our minimum of $175 per month. So let's say we take on that account, we agree at $175 per month. During that customer interaction or that first interview with the customer, we go through all our additional charges or fees that we charge throughout the year in order to maintain their pool and equipment properly. So we charge $100 for filters and that's 3 times per year. And those are for 4 cartridge systems. So $100 a year, 3 times a year, or $100 of cleaning 3 times a year. And we do $50 for single cartridges. We don't have many, but we do have a lot of like water features or fountains or maybe separate spas that have single cartridge filters, and we charge $50 for those. And then we also charge $75 twice a year for chemicals. So a chemical assessment fee, and that includes like borate, SC1000, conditioner, etc. Before, it used to be when we first started, and it's evolved. It used to be for because we were big on Pool RX, right? We used to put Pool RX on all our pools because we thought that's what was cool. And not saying it doesn't work and it's not great to have and it can't help you in certain areas. We just choose now not to use Pool RX in the pool, and we're able to maintain a good looking pool without having to add Pool RX. So we kind of morphed it into a chemical assessment fee, which included like the borates, the scale, and the conditioner. And then we charge $60 a year, twice a year, which covers the cost for enzymes and phosphate treatments. And then we do $45 for, if they have a salt system, it's $45 to break down the salt cell and clean it. And then $100 annual heater maintenance that we do right before, the season, especially out here in the wintertime when people come to visit.
Hey guys, John, I have some more questions because I want to talk about services. So those were kind of some of the fees and some of the things that you do. I do want to ask you kind of about services because I know you do some extra stuff. Let's take a word from our sponsors, and when we come back, we'll jump into that one.
2021 is the year of the Pool Pro. HASA is here to support pool pros with the purest and highest strength liquid sanitizer available. Hasa Sanichlor provides fast, safe chlorine performance without adding any cyanuric acid or calcium. Hasa gives you the best cost per use solution for shocking and daily sanitizing, and is in stock. Look for the new Hasa Rewards app coming soon. Go to hasa.com for more news, educational videos, and product information and literature. The HyperPole from Ultimate Pool Tools is a pool care pole designed by pool professionals for pool professionals, featuring precision-crafted carbon fiber and stainless steel construction. Go to ultimatepooltools.com or Instagram at Ultimate Pool Tools. Introducing Pool Invoice. Pool Invoice is pool billing software that was created specifically for the pool service and repair industry. It was developed for our industry and only our industry. Pool Invoice was built with recurring billing in mind. You can print, email, text invoices, or even send via WhatsApp. You can add recurring or yearly charges, accept credits, and set up autopay. You can even see when customers have seen the invoice. It even has a customer portal where they can log in and see, print, and pay invoices. It has all of your customers' information on one page, so you don't need to search through hundreds of invoices looking for the one you need. Just go to the customer's profile, and it's all at your fingertips. It's currently in beta phase, so anyone can use it for free. Just go to poolinvoice.com and request an invitation at the bottom of the page. Pool Invoice was made for you.
Hey guys, welcome back. We're talking to John and Zach, and we are talking about increasing revenues with added services. So we were just talking to John about his fees. Zach, I know you had a question. I'm going to let you jump in and ask that.
I'm saying, Look, he's asking me on the chat, and are you not on this podcast with me, Zach? Really, bro?
It came to me through the sponsor. So my question would be, do you guys require the heater assessment, or do you just offer it and then leave it up to the customer to decide whether they want that or not?
So as we evolved, right? So when I had this epiphany and we decided to do it a couple years ago, what we did is we sent out an email and, we offered it to all our customers and explained why it was beneficial and why they should do it and how the heater is the most expensive piece of equipment on their pad usually, the benefits of it and how it can maintain it, blah, 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 blah. And we got great feedback on it and a lot of people wanted to do it. And then eventually we switched it into part of our service fees. One of the things, this is just something that we do in order to maintain your pool and equipment and make sure it's working for you. Because we found that not everybody uses their heater. And yeah, we do equipment checks every time we're there, but I don't turn on a customer's heater and run it, let it run, heat up a spa to see if it works, for 10 minutes. We'll run through it, make sure it turns on, make sure everything's kind of good to go. But, we don't do a thorough check on it. And we found that a lot of times we have a lot of snowbirds out where we're at and they're not around. And then they'll come down from wherever they're coming from, Canada, up north, Washington. And then when they come down to their home, they go to use their pool. And we didn't know they were coming down, whatever. And they go to use their spa. And then spa heats up for a little bit, but it won't heat up it only heats up to 80 degrees, or it keeps shutting down, or it takes 2 hours to do. So we figured, hey, you know what? We need to get our eyes and hands on every single one of these heaters, make sure they're working every year, clean them out and do that. And we started eliminating that. And we just included it now as part of taking us on as your pool service company. And it's worked out really well.
That's great. And Zach, we've talked a little bit about it. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that in a minute, about guys and girls sitting down and really kind of looking at everything in their business. But John, let me ask you real quick before I get into that. What about services? What extra services do you offer now?
See, so I kind of look at it differently. So services, what I talked about is part of my services and fees, I guess. They kind of go together. But as far as like additional things, and we've learned to tie this on too. So now we start doing like tile cleaning, right? So we offer where we can do tile cleaning and beat blasting pools. And in my mind, the way I'm thinking too is I'm thinking, okay, great, right? So if we're going to start blasting tile or cleaning tile, and it's inevitable eventually, no matter, your chemistry is beautiful and perfect. I don't care what anybody says. You're going to get some on a spillway, and you're going to get some in a spa when they're heating it up, right, at wintertime, or when it's 120 degrees out. You're going to get a little bit on the tile. And when you're there and you're brushing, part of my service is not sitting there with the pumice stone or, on my hands and knees scrubbing and, ripping off any kind of calcium that's there. My job is to minimize it for as long as I can, so that it doesn't become a huge problem. And when it starts to become a problem, we address it immediately. So I thought, okay, well, we need to start cleaning tile or doing that. So we offer that service. And now what I've decided to do, and again, just kind of like with everything else, I just tied into, this is part of pool ownership. It's going to happen. So we put people on a program to where, hey, look, guys, okay, we cleaned your tile, we got you set up. And now every 18 months, we're just going to put you on a program where every 18 months now we're going to come in and we're going to blast your tile again and clean it up so that it's always in tip-top shape, and that way we can maintain it. And we don't have to wait until it gets that bad that you want it cleaned or you have to have it cleaned. And then we just put it on the schedule. So I kind of tie my services and my fees kind of together because I just think it's part of owning a pool. And when you service pools, you definitely don't have to have all these things in order to, have somebody take care of your pool. But if you choose to have us as your company to take care of your pool, then these are the things that we found to be the best, and most successful for us and for our clients. So hopefully that answered your question.
Yes. And, guys and girls, coming back to it, and I've said this from day one, you need to stop thinking of your customers as a rate. And that plays a big part into what we do, but it's not the only part. And what I'm referring to is you have to look at your customer as a whole. At the end of the year, how much money did each customer bring in and those other sources of revenue, just exactly like John is talking about this. And John, it made me think of the podcast that we did about the profit and how you guys looked at every customer and they had a dollar value to each customer, right? So I was the executive and Zach was the minivan mom, right? So my dollar value was going to be higher than Zach's. Oh, I don't think that Zach found that funny because he just kind of stayed quiet. So we need to do the same thing, guys. We need to figure out, with everything else, what is the value of that customer? And so most of you have heard me and John talk about our experiences and how companies are always looking at other streams of revenue. And guess what? You are that business and you're the one that you have to do that. You have to look at your customer as a rate, as a whole, and what they bring in for the rest of the year and all the other sources of revenue for your business. And I'll give you an example. This is where you have to sit and think of all these different ideas all the time. In hotels, we used to have to sit down all the time and kind of think, what are some of the other revenue sources that we can, bring in? And so we had that nightly rate. So we knew what we were going to bring in for kind of in pools, what your monthly rate is. We had the nightly rate. And we had that calculation on the average cost of what they would spend and all that kind of stuff. But we always sat down and look at other revenues and other sources of revenue. And we had to go through that exercise every year. And this would be great for pool guys to do, right? Once a year, kind of sit down and kind of try to think outside the box and what they can bring into the table. So here's one of the things that I did and we came up with is we had, an example, 86 suites. And most of the suites weren't sold because people would not want to pay the higher rates, or their companies say, oh, we don't pay for the suite. We'll only pay for the standard room. So what we did was figure out the difference of the rate. And we kind of figured out, okay, the difference between our regular room and our suite is $35 a night. So what we did is we all kind of went to the front desk agents and said, hey, we're going to give you the ability to upsell all these suites every night for an extra $35. And we're going to give you 10% of that upgrade. And the first year, we actually brought in over $180,000 just in upsells. Awesome. Because people were willing to pay out of pocket for that extra $35. So if they were going to stay 2 nights and it was a business guy, he was like, I'll pay out of my pocket and I'll stay the extra 2 nights. And now I have this night's suite. Or if you had somebody that had a killer rate, they'd be like a Priceline rate or something like that. They're like, oh, heck yeah, But, we would have to sit and think out of the box and think of, every opportunity. And I think that's one of the things that as pool guys, we need to do. And John, I think this one is beautiful. And to sit there and go, okay, here's an issue with the heaters. We have issues all the time. Here's a great opportunity to now bring in all this extra revenue. John, it adds up to a lot. If you have, 130 customers, 140, whatever it is, $100 a pop. Look now how much revenue you're bringing in just because that added service that you thought out of the box to think about.
Well, yeah, and it adds value too. It's not just something I just pulled out of my ass. You know what I mean? It's something that, it's wow. Okay, there's the difference. That's the difference. That's what helps differentiate yourself from your competition. And I say that 1,000 times. you got to be able to find it. And you have this value, and you add something, and oh, okay, and this is, people get it, and it makes my life 1,000 times easier, and it makes my customers that much happier because it doesn't eliminate, but at least minimizes disappoints, so.
Yeah, the other one that I love that both of you do is that, and I kick myself now because I'm like, man, that was another revenue opportunity. And that is that charge or that fee that you guys have to take over a pool.
Oh, yeah.
And it reminds me of this exact same thing kind of with the hotels. It's like you constantly have to think outside the box. But this is another beautiful one to me because this is another huge revenue opportunity.
Yeah, on that one, I'm going to say, that one's a little tough, especially at the beginning, right? And I get it. And I'm saying it kind of for everybody. And I think I'm speaking for a lot of the people out there, because when you're first starting and you're there to get an account, you want to get an account, right? And you have to get over that hurdle. You have to value yourself enough to understand and know that they need you at this moment. They need you. And you think mentally when you first start, like, oh my God, if I charge them $200 to turn this pool or to start with this pool, they're not going to hire me. I just want the account. So I'm going to do whatever I can to make it happy or make them happy and make it work because I want to have the account. You have to get rid of that mentality. It costs money to take care of a pool, to start up a pool, or to start a new account. So we start off at $200 period. And that's where it goes. It starts at $200 period just for us to go. And that's if the pool looks good. If the pool's green or other things, obviously you charge more, but it's $200 for us to go there and go through all the tests that we're going to go through. We go through all the equipment, all that takes so much time because it's important when you're there. You want to catch everything you can possibly catch, because if you don't, and then you bring it up a month later, 2 months later, they're going to go, hey, it was working fine before, or why didn't you say something before? And look, I know we're kind of running out of time, and I just want to bring up a story because that bit me in the butt just recently. We just took over account, and I told Mama, it's just a property manager, said, hey, look, we love how you take care of this home. We have 2 other homes we want you to take care of. We go over there and take care of them. We did. And when we first went there, they said they were having an inspection, something like that. We didn't touch anything when we go there. We don't touch, we don't run, we don't do anything unless we're hired. We're the pool service company. So after they hired us and they said, okay, you're going to go out there and do it, we went out there to go do our full test. And they just sold the house. The new homeowners, whatever, bought it, right? And they had their pool inspection. And we went to go check it out. All the actuator wasn't working. The GFI, the lights, GFI kept tripping. Pump had a leak. All this, and the jet pump wouldn't turn on. The customer's coming up, and and she comes around and goes, "Well, all that stuff worked before." And it's like, "Well, it's not working now." You know what I mean? And I'm telling you, imagine if we were like, "Oh my God, I just want the account," and then a month later or 2 months later, you say, "Okay, guys, we need to fix this. We need to fix this. We need to fix this." All of a sudden, they're gonna turn on you, and they're gonna think that you're trying to rob them or that you don't know what you're doing because everything was working beforehand, and now it's not working. So it's super critical to have that conversation with that client when you're first meeting them and saying, hey, look, there's a charge for us to take over. We're going to do this. We're going to do that because we're going to be here for an hour, et cetera. Our minimum is $200 to start an account.
Now, Zach, what about you guys?
Yeah. So, we're actually just now in March 1st, we're going to be implementing a startup service for all new maintenance accounts. It's going to be $150. And for all the reasons John just explained. And this is something we've done all along for all repair calls. And I want to be clear, and I think we all agree that we're not saying to run out and charge a bunch of fees to try to increase your revenues, because that will most likely fail and generate bad feedback from customers. So you need to make sure that you're actually doing something of value, but you need to properly charge for those things and make sure that you're getting paid for what you're doing. And let me give you some examples. So we charge a $90 call-out charge. We call it our on-point inspection. Anytime we send an equipment technician out, and let me kind of explain why, because put it in a perspective. The big van that they drive, that costs money, even when it's sitting in the parking lot overnight. And we can't help that customer if we don't have a vehicle. And there's a whole handful more costs that are associated with that vehicle. And moving on, the minute the technician walks into our shop, that's a cost. And all of their time and training and expertise come at a cost. And when they're en route to the customer's house, that's a cost. When they're coordinating with the office on a diagnosis and building an estimate for the work, we've now added more costs and involved an entirely different person in the process. And I'm going to stop there because I could take a whole hour breaking down that one example into all the costs associated with it. And I think we all understand what I'm getting at. And let me put it on the flip side. I mentioned that you need to be giving value. So some quick examples of the value they're getting in that scenario are a marked vehicle indicating who's on their property, a professionally dressed technician with their name and their company on their shirt, a vehicle that is stocked with commonly used parts so that we can attempt to make a repair on that first visit, minimizing the downtime of their pool, a trained and experienced technician. And then, like I said, we do a full inspection of their equipment, not just look at the issue that we were called out for. And then we provide an emailed report with pictures and an estimate for repairs. So again, I can continue to break that value down, but we're kind of running out of time. So to wrap it up and put some perspective on this, what do you think the costs on this are? And you can see that by charging $90, we're not out here buying Lamborghinis and Ferraris. We're simply covering the cost to be able to continue to stay in business, to be able to help customers. So if we do 500 call outs per year, that would be $45,000. And again, I'll repeat it, we're just really covering costs here. And as I mentioned, we're moving to a startup fee on the new maintenance accounts. And the same thing applies for why we're doing this. Because as we do it now, once we start the first weekly visit, we're already negative on that account. And it can take several visits without any hiccups or any unforeseen problems to get back to even on that account before we start making any money on it. And that's just one small piece of what, as business owners, really need to be looking at.
That's a great point, Zach. And I think that's one of the things that we probably don't take into account the most is kind of go all the way back to that starting process. And even when you're an independent pool guy, it's the same thing. You're getting a call, you're having to go out to quote that rate. Well, you have to pay for your truck, you have to pay for insurance, you have to pay for your telephone, you have to pay for your time to get out there. And sometimes we don't associate that because we just think we're pool guys and we can put in all the time that we want. If we work an extra 20 hours, it's no big deal. It's just time. But there has to be an association of time and cost. So your time has a value to it. So even as independent pool guys, they really do need to think that exact same way that you're talking about that. Zach, let me ask you, what was your setup when you started taking on your first customers and what did that look like? You know, what was that first rate that you guys quoted?
As you know, we started with repairs only. And in the beginning, we did free estimates because we thought we wouldn't get anyone to call us otherwise. And in some cases, you know, in the beginning, you do what you got to do. And at that time, our pricing sucked. I'll never forget, you know, we would install a heater for like $2,200 and we would be so pumped that we made $100 on that. And today, I don't even think you can buy a heater for $2,200. So we were definitely terrible at pricing. And when we started the maintenance, we started at $189.99 plus tax, and we would charge extra for the filter cleans.
So what do you quote now? What are your rates now?
So today we charge $225 plus tax for maintenance, and we include 2 filter cleans per year as long as they're on maintenance. And we're also in the process of separating out the borates into an add-on service for $20 plus tax per month.
Now, your billing is a little bit different because you kind of have, and this is what I love, right? Now, to me, the most important part that I'm going to tell every business owner out there is the beauty of you owning your own company is you get to pick what's right and what's not right. So you can't have somebody come and tell you what to charge or what not to charge or what you should do. It's all up to you at the end of the day. This is the beauty of it. And your billing is a little bit different because you have an inclusive rate and that includes the filter service. So can you talk about that for a second so the guys know how you're charging your fees and your charges?
Yeah, so that idea came from me talking to new customers. And I kept hearing the same thing. And they kept telling me that they feel like they're getting nickeled and dimed. And in reality, they were just getting charged for products or services that they were actually receiving. So what the other company was doing was actually correct. It was just a matter of how it made the customer feel. So we moved to include the filter cleaning and offer one monthly price for the service and the filter cleans. But outside of that, anything else, such as baskets or tail scrubs or O-rings and so on, we charge extra for. And we always give them a price and get approval first, even if it's $5. I know some people have a thing where anything under a certain amount, like say $50, they're going to automatically do and bill for. And I think that's awesome as long as you can explain it well to your customer and set that expectation. But in our case, we like to put them in control of making that decision. And it seems to be, a way that works for us.
So at what point did you realize that you needed to introduce either new fees or new charges?
Yeah, I mean, it's really simple. We honestly just got tired of not growing and continuing to lose money. And like I mentioned on the live we did a week or so ago, we just got to that point where we were sitting there going, 2 years, and if it doesn't get better, we're going to move on and try something else. And that's really when we started to look at it and figure out how to kind of increase profit.
What specifically, obviously made you sit there and kind of figure out, okay, I really need to dive deep into these numbers?
So we knew things weren't good because we were growing every year. Our revenue got higher every year. It always has. But we weren't putting ourselves in a better position. We were still broke all the time. I'd still have to borrow money periodically from family to cover jobs. We weren't improving our personal lives. And at around that same time, I was working with the Galveston County Small Business Development Center, and they had told me about a program. I went and applied, got in, and in that program, they really talk about all of these things we're talking about. And it started to be like an aha moment for me where putting these numbers down and we're looking at it. And at the end of the day, we're negative and we're not making anything. We're just doing work to pay money at the end of the day. So that's really the point that it kind of opened my eyes. And then I really started to dig in. And once it started to click, it became almost fun for me. It's not always fun, but when you really start to figure these things out, you really start to find opportunities to improve your service, improve your profitability, so that you can continue on.
Now, what about services? What extra services do you guys offer now that are different than obviously from when you began?
So we really only offer 2 services, and that's equipment repair, install, upgrade, and the weekly maintenance. And we used to do stone sealing, remodeling, lights, retail, delivery, and so on. But none of those things fit the model we're trying to create, which is we're trying to create a very scalable model. And take remodeling, for example. That's not something you can just teach someone to do. It could take years, and it isn't something that you can just open up a second location in another area and just start doing. You have to have someone who knows what they're doing, who's been through it, to be able to, cover that in another area. And believe me, I realize the money to be made in these other services, especially remodeling, it just doesn't fit our model.
What are some of the top services and fees the guys and girls should be charging out there?
Well, I think startup, like John's the one that really kind of opened my eyes to this, is taking over the account because, we were doing a free filter clean, dosing the pool because it's usually way out of balance. We're spending time going through all their equipment and it costs us. So I would say find a way to just, even if it's just at the beginning, to offset that cost. Even if it's like, hey, we're going to charge a $75 startup, I think that would be extremely helpful. And then definitely a call out charge. So we charge a call out, that $90 for any repair calls for non-maintenance customers. If they're on maintenance, that's one of the perks of being a loyal customer, is that we don't charge that. But definitely charge a call out charge to cover your time to get out there and diagnose and do all of that. And then, one thing that's not necessarily a charge, but something to look at is no more freebies. As far as like O-rings and baskets and so on, me and Justin are so guilty of just wanting to help everyone. And if it were just me and him, we'd be terrible. We'd be like, just throw the O-ring in there, just give them a basket, But it's really Leslie and Leah that are like, no, you guys can't do that, But it adds up in a big way at the end of the year. So you really have to watch that.
I agree 100%. It really does. And I think because sometimes you're just kind of out on the field and you're just kind of like adding them and doing it's not that big of a deal, but it comes back to the same thing, Zach. It comes back to really sitting down and looking at your numbers.
Yeah, because once you see those numbers, it's gonna be a little bit scary at first.
Yep, you're right. It is. Absolutely.
So let's talk about other services that guys can get into. So obviously you're servicing the pool, we're cleaning pools, all that kind of stuff. But what's extra services or labor related things that the guys can do that they can charge for?
Yeah, stone sealing, the mastic, or we call it deco seal, in between the coping and the concrete. I know you guys do bead blasting, and there's other people out there that do it. And I definitely agree with like having that solution. That's awesome. So that once you reach that point, you can do it. I mean, you can, as long as you're giving value, you look at a problem and you try to find a solution. And I know people that do, like, they'll get a leaf blower on their truck and they'll blow around the deck and stuff like that. I mean, as long as you're selling that service and it's giving value, then I think there's tons of opportunity out there. I'm trying to think of any more. I mean, remodeling, definitely a dark road in my opinion, but I know a lot of people that can do an amazing job at it and it works out for them. So that's also another one.
I think it's important to just kind of sit back, guys, and do the little exercise of thinking outside the box. And I was talking to one of the guys from Florida, and what he was saying was that in Florida, pressure washing is a big thing. And so a lot of his customers actually have a company that comes out and they'll grab the whole deck area and pressure wash it and all that kind of stuff. And so as we were kind of having the discussion of all these services and stuff like that, it kind of clicked for him. And he's like, wait a second, let me do the math. They're paying, and I don't remember what it was, but it was in the over $100 that they were charging just to do the deck area. And he started doing the math and he's like, wait a second, now I can do the pool, but then I can offer another service tied in. And he's doing the thing of, I'm going to do a better job because I'm going to make sure that not everything gets into the pool and I'm going to have it really nice and neat. And the amount of revenue that he was going to be able to add to it was huge. So it's always exactly like you're saying, Zach, look for a problem and find a solution and put a value to it.
And I want to add to the heater assessment thing. You can decide what service you want to provide, and you can make that a required part of your service. And the customer, they don't have to go with you. And so like leaf blowing, for example, that's one we've kind of toyed with the idea of it. But if you go out and you say, and we offer leaf blowing for an extra $40 a month or whatever that price comes out to be, you're probably not going to get a lot of customers that sign up for that service. You may get a handful, but you're probably not going to get a lot. But if you find out that with the people that do it, it's really successful, it's just getting other people to commit, you might decide to roll that into your package, and then it's just a required piece of it. But at the end of the day, every time you go, you're differentiating yourself, as John mentioned, and now they're left with a really aesthetically pleasing back area around their pool. And I think I just wanted to kind of put that in there, that it is okay to require some of these things. Now, I wouldn't say like require bead blasting unless it's like a frequency, like John was saying, and you set that expectation, but that's going to be super key.
You nailed it right there, Zach. You said it perfectly. It really is. And it comes down to the old school selling thing, right? When we taught our employees how to sell to customers or to clients when they walked into the door, to the executive type or to the soccer moms and stuff like that. When you're offering something to a customer, the majority of the customers are coming there, they really don't understand. They know they have a pool, but they don't understand what's really involved in taking care of the pool or the little things that matter. And when you give them an option, when you tell them something like that and they say no, it's because they don't know, right? And I've said this before, N-O, or they don't know, K-N-O-W. They just don't know. And it's your job to either explain it really well so they see the value in it, go with it, or you add it onto your service because you know it works. And you know the end result is what? That the client is going to be happy, that their pool is going to be taken care of, and that you're going to be able to make a living off of it. And you're going to enjoy working for them. So, I mean, that's the ultimate goal. So with like that heater, that's what we found. Like, well, you know what? These people don't know, but the heater, when they want to use it, damn, we know if it doesn't work, they're pissed and all hell breaks loose. If God forbid, they come down and they go in to get the hot tub and that hot tub doesn't turn on and it doesn't heat up the spa.
And John, I used to, once, obviously in California, like we'd start to get into February, I'd go in and I'd fire up all the heaters because I knew we were kind of getting close to the swim season. And it's one of the things that I look back and it's like, I could have been charging for that. I'd go out, service the pool, turn it on, make sure it's working, clean the orifices if it wasn't, do all that kind of stuff. Make sure, because what I didn't want was a call on a Saturday or Sunday going, hey, we want to use the pool now and it's not working.
Yeah, and we would do that too. And you're right. But, it's time consuming and it takes money. But we also fell into the pitfall was like we fired it up. It turned on, ran for like a minute. Great. And we shut it off. But then we get a call. It was like, what the hell happened? We went, we checked it. Everything was good. We said we checked it. And then they go down there and the heater's short cycling, but it's taken 3-4 minutes before it shuts down, and then or 5 minutes before it shuts down. So and it didn't throw an error code at first. So it's like, when we do the heater maintenance now, okay, we open up the cabinet, we clean it out, check all the wires, we have it fired up, we have it running, we run the spa, make sure the spa goes up to temp to where it's supposed to. So it's running for 15, 20 minutes while we're doing the service and cleaning up whatever we need to do. And then we know that thing worked, when they're going to do it. And we should get paid for it. Absolutely.
Agreed. 100%. Guys, I think we need to do a podcast on DecoSeal and follow that thing up with some videos and John also on bead blasting. I think we need to talk a little bit about bead blasting, and that could kind of be an episode all by itself. It's not just getting out there and just putting on and just blasting. You could do damage to some of the things. So I think we need to kind of go into some of those, and I know that you do it, so you'd be the perfect person to kind of jump on and talk about that.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'd love to learn about DecoSeal. I really don't know anything about it. I haven't attempted it. I haven't done it. I'm too old. I'm too big. I don't want to be on my hands and knees.
Let me tell you about DecoSeal. And I took a class at the Western Pool and Spa Show, and I had no intention of doing DecoSeal because it was probably like the second year that I was doing pools, and I just had so much on my hands. But I went out and I took a class on DecoSeal, and really I looked at the classes as opportunities to learn, to be able to educate my customer. And it was these two older guys that should have been retired in the pool industry, but they had been doing it for 100 years, and they'd come and they'd teach this class. And what I took out of that DecoSeal class is what they actually went in depth is how concrete behaves, how concrete cures, how concrete cracks, why is the lines, why are they so many feet apart? And then they kind of went into obviously your deck and your coping and why it's so important. From that day on, I was able to go out to quote a DecoSeal, and what I would do is I would explain to the customers all this information. And by the time I was done and telling them the damages of not having that DecoSeal there and the damages it could do to the pool, everybody was like, do it. And then they wouldn't even balk at the price. They're like, just get it done. So I think a lot of these things, guys, is you don't have to just take these classes thinking, oh, I'm going to do DecoSeal, or I'm going to get in the business of DecoSeal. But it comes back to the same thing. It comes back to educate yourself on all these different topics, because at some point it's going to come into play with one of your customers. Guys, let's take a word from our sponsors. And when we come back, Zach, John, I want to get your final thoughts.
The sound of you continually pitching pool care poles into the trash. The sound of you using an Ultimate Pool Tools carbon fiber pool care pole for years to come. Go to ultimatepooltools.com or Instagram at Ultimate Pool Tools. 2021 is the year of the Pool Pro. HASA is here to support pool pros with the purest and highest strength liquid sanitizer available. HASA SaniChlor provides fast, safe chlorine performance without adding any cyanuric acid or calcium. HASA gives you the best cost per use solution for shocking and daily sanitizing, and is in stock. Look for the new HASA Rewards app coming soon. Go to HASA.com for more news, educational videos, and product information and literature.
Welcome back, everyone. We're talking to John and Zach. We're talking about their businesses, going back in history with their businesses and their trajectory. And we're talking about increasing revenue with services and fees. John, I'm going to tell you, every time I hear that HASA now, I remember of you with the cyanuric acid.
I know. I was thinking about that. Look, she got it right. It was perfect, actually.
Yeah.
No, and then did you catch it at the end? And I saw that. I was like, wow, HASA. What was the last thing they said? They go, and it's in stock. I wonder who they're taking a shot at, right? Liquid chlorine, and it's in stock, taking a shot at trichlor.
Oh, yeah. Here's the thing on that, John, is I see a lot of posts. I don't know if you guys have seen them, John, Zach, a lot of posts of guys going out and buying 30, 40 buckets of tabs. Have you seen those?
Yeah, I have.
I really hope that these guys are understanding that there's a cost associated for that. And hey, and if you increase your rates, I applaud you. That's exactly what you want to do. But I hope that they remember that the cost of those buckets of tabs is now anywhere from $120 to $140. So each one of those tabs is now going to cost you at about $1.25, $1.50. So you add 2 tabs to a pool, your cost is automatically $3 for that week. So that monthly cost is going to climb very quickly. So guys, if you're listening and you're definitely still on the path that you're going to use a lot of dry chlorine and tabs, what we're telling you is please look at your numbers and please make sure that you take that into account so that your profit doesn't take a hit and you're the one eating that cost. All right. So I'm trying to think who I'm going to go with first here today. John, Zach, Cusack.
Yeah.
Perfect. Love it. I talked a lot today, so I'm going to keep this short and sweet. But I'll say if you've mastered your current offering and you've cut your costs and you've maximized your pricing and you have the capacity to take on additional services, it can be a great way to generate additional revenue. I'll just caution, make sure you've done all of those things I just mentioned prior to that, or you'll end up overextended and frustrated. And the last thing is look at your cost of service. Let's start looking at that and breaking it down in your service pricing and make sure that it makes sense to be able to sustain your business. And for those of you that want to grow your business, make sure that you're building that so that you can sustain that growth, because there's a difference between just sustaining and there's a difference between growing. So just keep that in mind.
John.
I'm going to keep it short because I rambled a lot today. But if I were to give some piece of advice, it would be know your value, know your worth, and do not be ashamed or do not be afraid to demand it or to ask for it. When you're out there in your service, we look at, people talk to me and tell me sometimes that, hey, you're crazy for what you charge. Or some people even say you're ripping them off. And I'm like, are you friggin' kidding me, bro? I'm ripping them off at 170. I go, so let's break this down real quick. And even with all my added on services and everything that I add on, I'm knowing that I'm about $51 a stop. When I'm going to a client's house, if it's $175 minimum per month, and when I add my enzymes, my mineral, my filter cleanings, all that good stuff, I'm at about $51.50 per stop. And when I'm there for like 20, 30 minutes when I'm there at a customer's home. And if I'm there for 20, 30 minutes at $51 or $50, what is that, $25 an hour that I'm making? And that's before any of my costs or any of my overhead that goes into it. I think that's respectable. And I think if you break it down and you have a heart-to-heart conversation with your customer when you're there and you're offering your services, and you explain to them how it works, and you're telling them, this is what it is. And if it's by service or by weekly visit or whatever it is, you tell them, hey, this is what the cost is. And then now I have my expenses and stuff, and this is why I charge a premium rate, and this is why, and this is what you're going to get for it. So I don't think it's ridiculous. And I think it's ridiculous to think that it is ridiculous, if that makes sense. The more guys and gals that are out there that have more respect for themselves and what they do, and they truly want to be the best at what they do and truly care about what they do and actually kick butt and do a great job, go out there and get your money because you deserve it. Because we relate cost with value, with quality. You can go out there and you can buy a brand new car for $10,000, a Hyundai or whatever it is, whatever those other cars are. And you can go buy a $2 million vehicle. And then there's 1,000 vehicles in between. We don't look at people when they're driving around in BMWs or a nice truck or a Lamborghini or something like that as, oh my God, they're so wasteful or something like that, or what a waste, or that car isn't worth it. The same thing with pool service and anything else. There's a gap, right? And there's going to have good, better, best, and there's going to have shitty. Of course, they're all out there, but you have to just figure out where you want to fall on that scale. And you just got to make sure that whatever you charge, you live up to those expectations. And hopefully, whoever's listening to this, know your worth. So when you're out there, guys, and you're out there quoting services, understand who you are, what you're trying to accomplish, and what you need in order to support your family. And don't be ashamed to go out there and get it. That's it.
Here's the thing, John, is there's two things that I want to talk about because you kind of hit perfectly on and even Zach. So first of all, you can't go out there and do a shitty job and tell somebody that you're going to charge them $200 a month because there's a value expectation of your service. On the flip side, I always use this as an example. You can have an Apple iPhone, and just like John said with the analogy of the cars, you could do it with phones. There's 50 other phones that are a lot cheaper that you could use and do the exact same thing. But yet Apple prides themselves because they deliver a good product and they have the brand loyalty behind it, and people are willing to pay whatever amount that is. And it goes to the same thing with the computers and the laptops. And this is one thing that cracks me up with my kids. I use a Windows computer, and my computer is 10 times more powerful than my daughter's Mac computers or laptops. But they have a brand value associated with Apple because they've done a good job at all their products that they don't care to have a Windows. They think it's an inferior or whatever. They're willing to pay the higher buck to have that product. And it's going to be the same thing for you out there. If you deliver a good quality product and you drive on that great customer service, you have to remember that they've had other shitty pool guys. And so when they find you and you're going to deliver that premier service, guess what? They're going to stick with you and they're going to be willing to pay because they know that they're getting that value out of that dollar. With that said, you can't go out and just, like Zach was saying, throw out services out there and have the expectation that there's no value associated to them because people are willing to pay for the value. And then the thing that I'm going to say from my standpoint is one of the things that you guys have to understand is you need to have, well, I like to say is a rate regret. You have to get comfortable with getting out there, improving your sales pitch, improving yourself, and going and trying to get a little bit higher dollar. Because if you don't try, you're not going to get it. And you need to understand that, guess what? At the beginning, the first couple customers might tell you no, that you're too high, but then it's your job to go back and figure out how you can work on your sales pitch to be able to get that 175 that John gets for his service or the 225 that Zach gets for his service. Get comfortable with knowing, hey, I need to practice and there's going to be a little bit of rate regret. And I want a rate regret. I want a customer, 2, 3, 4 customers to tell me that I'm too expensive so that I know what my threshold is going to be and that I know I'm getting my bigger bang for my buck. You have to take all that into account. You have to, as an exercise once a year, stop, look at everything that you're doing, look at your operation and try to figure out, okay, so this year I made, and it could be whatever it is, $10,000, $100,000, $1 million. But what are the other things or services in my business that now with my operation, I can go out and include those into my business and increase my revenue? And stop thinking of your customers as just a monthly rate. Your business is not a monthly rate. Your business is your total revenue that you're going to bring in. And you need to start to break those down and look at those individually. Guys, Zach, John, I want to thank you for your time. I appreciate having these podcasts. I love these. And so, guys, I hope that these podcasts help you guys. And we will talk soon. Bye, guys.
See you guys later.
Thanks for listening to the Pool Nation podcast, a member of the Pool Nation family. You can listen to us live every Friday here at 9 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Central, and 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. You can find us at Pool Nation or PoolNationPodcast.com, on Facebook or on Instagram at Pool.Nation. And to find more info about Pool Invoice, the billing software built specifically for the pool industry, go to PoolInvoice.com. Before you go, this is what the pool industry has been waiting for. PoolManUniversity.com. It's the first platform dedicated to learning the swimming pool service and repair industry. A pool service community where you can connect and find videos on business, service, water chemistry, and repairs. See you there at PoolManUniversity.com.
Pool Nation, all rights reserved. No part of this podcast may be reproduced in a verbal or nonverbal way. May not be distributed. It may not be distributed in any social media platforms or transmitted in any other forms or any other means, including recording or other electronic or mechanical methods without the prior written permission of Pool Nation.